This is really about the fundamental structure of the industry as much as it is particular environmental issues on any given site. I mean, it is a reflection of a certain level of farming operation is suspect or unacceptable.
Well, I'm a lawyer. Like. I'm a lawyer, so I can only do things within my world, within the courtroom. And the vehicle that we found that works is just nuisance. It goes back to 1610. King Charles I let a nuisance suit go forward where the neighbor put his hogs too close to the other guy's living room. And the Missouri legislators are trying to pass a law now to exempt these facilities and give them a free pass, if you will. And I say they're trying to take away rights that even King Charles I would grant his citizens. So it's a topsy-turvy world. The rural America's hurting. They need jobs. We just don't believe this is the right way to do it. And as I was saying, once you get involved in this area, you see all the things that are wrong with it. The constant antibiotic use that they administer on a constant basis in their feed presents huge human health problems. The environmental problems with the air and the water and so forth is starting to make an impact.
So the for lack of a better term, paranoia of some of the larger farms over the existence of people like you and what you represent is somewhat founded in that you really don't, at a certain level, this is an effort to say we're concerned about the repercussions of industry at this level, and we need to protect the tools that we have to stand up against it.
Oh, absolutely. For example, I represented Lynn County in Missouri, and the county commissioners were contemplating putting in a health ordinance to limit the size of these operations, the setbacks, how far they have to put it away from a church, a school, a neighbor, at various sizes. And one of the county commissioners, who's a cattleman, expressed some reservation about it hurting people like him. And I said, well, let's draw the health ordinance up so that it doesn't hurt people like you, because that's not the intention, it's not the goal. And any of these organizations out there, none of them are trying to attack traditional agriculture. Cows on pasture, pigs in lots, chickens in pasture, nobody's trying to stop that. The Humane Society's not trying to stop that. And the other organizations involved are actually trying to support traditional agriculture.
There's certainly a segment of that organization that would not like to see meat consumed anymore. I mean, that's...
Well, that's not my philosophy. My philosophy is let's just treat them halfway decent before we eat them. And I've seen just appalling examples of animal abuse, and the death rate at these large operations is just appalling. If a traditional farmer had that many animals dying on his property, they'd throw him in the county jail, or he'd be ostracized in the community. You know, my clients, if they have a calf that's born in the wintertime, they'll bring it in and put it in the bathtub to make sure it gets warm and survives. It's important to them. It's the source of their livelihood, and they have an affinity with the animals. But these giant operations are desensitized to human beings, to the animals, and it's, you know, everybody's got a little bit different look on animal welfare. So it's kind of a personal thing. It's not anything that we deal with in the lawsuits. But personally, I find it troubling, the conditions of some of these large operations. Not all, but some of them.
Because I've certainly stood in the middle of packed hog farms that were well managed. Being there, you know, to assess my own sense of odor and stand there, and is pretty impressive. The management level that they've got, but I've also stood in hog barns where I was choked by ammonia, and you know, so I can certainly see a wide range of management techniques.
If I can interrupt you, that's one of the focuses of our lawsuits is what we call best management practices, or BMPs, which can be as uncomplicated as just clean the floors more often, pick up the spilled feed, that sort of thing. So. Some of it is not rocket science that they could be doing to abate the odor, make it more tolerable for the neighbors.
Are you the attorney that's responsible for suing the administrator of the Senate?
Yes, and we reached out to him ahead of time to see who he contracted with. And it's typically somebody like Cargill or Premium Standard Farms, Murphy Farms, Tyson raises corporate hogs, and they wouldn't give us the information. They said that they didn't contract with anyone, but we said just show us the documentation and we won't sue you. So in the discovery process, we learned that he apparently is not under contract with a bigger company, and our desire is not to hurt the Missouri farmer, if you will. And we've offered to settle the lawsuit within insurance limits, and we've never gone after the personal assets of anybody. I mean, that's not what this is about.
Once an upset neighbor makes a successful nuisance claim against, a neighboring farmer, is it just for them to be able to come back again and again and again and again?
Well, it's interesting. There's been a lot of misinformation about that particular aspect of nuisance suits. I would say 99% of my clients have already tried to work with their local and state governments, the elected politicians, the state agencies, and to no avail. And they turn to us as their last option. These aren't people that sue very often, if at all. And they all say it's not about the money. They just said, get us our lives back. That's what 99% of them say.
And that's the rub too, is you've got, on the one hand, somebody who's trying to do their job in their eyes, and then the neighbor who's not happy with the quality of life, and so there's a dispute and it's settled. Then what happens? If the people continue doing their job and the people continue living there, when does it ever end?
Well, the theory is that the defendant hog farm in our cases could abate the nuisance, we call it, and we put on a lot of evidence to show what they could be doing. One of the things is best management practices, run a cleaner operation. And we have pictures where there's maggots and fly problems, where they're poor disposal of the deads, they call them, and just awful practices that they could clean up without really any extra cost. So the theory is that if we can prove that they can abate the nuisance, that makes it a temporary nuisance, and then they have the opportunity to clean up their act, to abate the nuisance. And if they don't, then the way the cases put it is successive suits lie until they fix the problem.
Is there a way to acknowledge that sometimes these operations can't help but stink, but a well-managed operation would, for the most part, not stink? But there are certain times, for instance, when you're cleaning out your pits or maybe doing field application, that there will be a heightened odor. Is there a way to acknowledge that without getting into lawsuit territory?
I don't know if I characterized this earlier, but if I didn't, I call these bad neighbor lawsuits. And what we typically see is there's a miscommunication between the large hog farm, large poultry operation, and its neighbors. Either it's an out-of-state corporation. A lot of these are global corporations.
But they're not they're global corporations, but these are local people who contract with them.
Only some of them. Premium Standard Farms has mostly corporate-owned hog farms.
Oh,
they don't use the contract grow model, we call it. Frankly, we go out of our way not to hurt the contract grower. A lot of them get into the business because they need to economically to stay on the farm. And I feel sorry for them that they've entered into a contract that obviously a lawyer didn't look at, and it's so one-sided. It's sad.